Super. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining with us to this webinar this evening. We are glad to see you all here. We have a two-part let's say presentation this evening. The first part will be by colleagues from the House of European History from Brussels, and Lane and Rosavinde will be talking about their the exhibitions and the resources they have. And then in the second part of the webinar, we will have three of our focus group teachers, Emma, Emilia, and Andreas, who will present us the pedagogical kit for one of the movies on our platform, namely the El Camino. And I will not hold us, as we have a lot of content to cover. I will not keep us waiting for more, and I'll just pass it on to colleagues from the House of European History to get started. Lane and Rosavinde, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So first and for all, thank you for inviting us to your webinar and giving us the chance to present the learning offer of the House of European History. My name is Leen de Smet. Just to give you an idea, I'm a history and citizenship teacher in and outside the classroom, meaning that I was a teacher myself, and I still consider myself one, only always on location now. Maybe Rosavinde, you want to say something about you to start?
Yeah, as the museum with which we work, I'm also Brussels-based art historian and history teacher. And today I'm mostly helping pupils to discover heritage. And I'm working a lot in the House of European History as guide and museum educator as well. And I'm looking forward to share some content with you guys.
Mm-hmm. So why is it a good thing to present the House of European History in this specific context? Because in line with the way you put it yourself, cinema is the new school. Well, so are museums. And in the House of European History, both in our permanent and temporary exhibition, there are references to movies and documentaries. So there is also the link. And every year, we do screen additional and relevant movies and documentaries with a thorough introduction and a panel debate afterwards. So that's also a nice link. And then our educational program is developed for teachers and pupils from last years of primary and secondary schools. So at the House of European History, we are very curious people, history teachers. So we'd love to ask you and know where you're from. So would it be possible for you to just put in the chat where you're joining from? Oh, Stockholm, very nice. I totally love the city. And other people? If you feel comfortable to put it, we're not going to make you do it, but
yeah, but it's also a little test for us to see if everyone is able to see the chat, if everyone is able to listen and understand what you're saying. And Romania, cool.
Nice. Spain, from all over Europe.
Yeah. And since you know the way to the chat, it's also nice if you have any question, you can always send your questions there, and we can come to it later on.
Oh, Greece. Oh, you're so lucky. We are all Brussels-based, Rosavinde and me. All right. So maybe start with a little introduction on the House of European History. Here it is. So the House of European History is a museum that is based in the European Quarter in Brussels. It's really next to the European Parliament and next to the building of the Council. And it's in fact a project of the European Parliament. It was an idea of German deputy Hans-Gert Pöttering when he became president of the European Parliament in 2007. Because he said Europe is a continent with the highest number of museums, but there was no museum on Europe. So this is why his idea was to have an independent curational team create the museum. It's really important to underline that there is no political influence in the creation of the content of our house and our exhibitions. So the idea was in 2007, and in 2017 it was opened. And what is the house presenting? It's roughly chronological 200 years of recent European history, meaning geographical Europe. So it's not limited to the 27 member states. We show you over 1,000 objects, images, but also audiovisual material, sound and text in an exceptional, not even very beautiful, in an exceptionally beautiful scenography. So you really feel history when you're there. And we also have a different red threads to deepen different topics from European integration, of course, but also democracy, Holocaust, 14 in total. And all the information in the museum is available in the 24 official languages of the European Union, language being key to Europe. We're all day open and we're free of charge. So maybe just Rosewinde, could you switch back to the slides with the picture of the house?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to say a thing about this. It's a very beautiful building, and I saw there was someone from Stockholm. So there is a link with Stockholm and also with Paris with this building. I don't know if there are people from London and and Rome, because there you can find a similar building too. Not the architecture, but the idea. It was a formal dental clinic for young children, an Eastman dental clinic. I know in Rome and in Stockholm, it's part of the university there. So children, Brussels-based, but also Stockholm-based, for instance, they had to come to these institutions with their class to have their teeth checked. So quite traumatizing in the from the 30s to the 70s for whole generations. But fortunately today, we get a lot of positive feedback from our young visitors. And when we do a tour for like 1.5 hours, often we get them the question from them to ask to stay longer. So the trauma is totally over. Maybe now go to the next slides, Rosewinde, to show you a little promotion video and some moving images.
Okay, I'll also put it in the chat. I found the link as well.
Ah, super.
But let's share it on screen. There you go.
Here is the seat of empires, the birthplace
and the grave of civilizations.
Here are gods, dictatorships, and democracy.
Here are the far-reaching winds of untamed power.
The power to harm
and to heal.
You are thinkers
and fighters and artists
and writers.
The pomp of royalty.
The surge of revolution.
The spark of rebirth.
Here is the courage to explore.
The freedom to discover.
The right to be.
Here is the apocalypse of war.
And the birdsong of peace.
Here are memories that can never fade.
Here is doubts
and division
and suspicion.
Hope and unity. Crisis and controversy and cruelty.
Here are the riches of history, the possibilities of tomorrow.
Made by ideas,
Shaped by traditions,
Sustained by people.
Here is our story.
So, did it work?
Yes,
Ah,
totally.
perfect. There we go.
Yes. And then maybe tell you something about our narrative. Yeah. Well, what makes our European museum so different? Well, we call it a transnational museum, and we mean that it's not a summary of national histories, but those events that have united and divided Europeans in the past. So you will not find different national histories, for instance, French and Swedish and Dutch and Portuguese put next to each other. No, instead we do exhibit main events, processes and phenomena that have united and divided us as Europeans. So each of these phenomena that were selected meet three criteria, meaning they have to be originated in Europe, they have to be spread more or less across the whole of the continent, and they have to be still relevant today. Maybe go to the next slide on our learning offer.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, super, thank you. Maybe, and this is your all teachers, how is our museum relevant for your teaching? Well, I think first of all, the museum puts over 1,000 objects and sources from all over the European continent in their historical context. So it's ideal, of course, to learn about the past itself. Many times, history teachers from all over Europe, when they visit with their class, they already told me that they would like some of these objects, possibly all of them, in their classroom themselves. So it's also a place that is, as I said, it still needs to be relevant today, what we show. So it's a great place for actualization. They say history does not repeat as such, but it certainly rhymes. But you can name a lot of recent examples, like the oil crisis of the 70s. It's extremely relevant today in the context of the war in Ukraine and now in Palestine. Or, for instance, removing communist statues from public spaces in Eastern and Central Europe, which is also linked to the colonization of the public space in former imperial countries. But they're so numerous. In fact, everything we show, there is a link to today, and you can go in discussion with the pupils. You can use it. And what I like so much about the museum is that it makes people and pupils aware about multi-perspectivity. It makes people understand that we have a certain perspective ourselves and that others can have other perspectives on the same past. Just because we might have lived the same past differently from another place in Europe, from another position in life. So it's really a very fertile ground and a fertile place to make students reflect, ask questions, and form their own opinions. So, and to do so, we have, for instance, some booklets. And one of them is the Learn about the EU in 12 steps, because many times this is a subject that might be difficult to teach to students, because it's it might be a bit boring because it's mostly about texts and treaties, but we manage with these objects and with this audiovisual material, we manage to bring it alive and to make it something nice, this path towards European integration. So you can get these booklets in the museum, but also online. You can just download them. And if you want the replies, the answers to the questions, then you can also just contact the museum, and in preparation of a tour, you can just get the right answers.
Yeah, I put the links in the chats as well, and it's really easy to have a closer look to it when you look online. So
super. And maybe also something new for the moment. We're in a test phase. We are doing an interactive workshop with an educator of this topic. So that's as of February. You can also book a special workshop tour only on European integration. So I think I talked a lot. So now I'm going to give Rosewinde the floor, and I will take the presentation.
okay.
And here it is. Do you see it? Rosewinde, can you see my presentation?
I don't see it yet, no.
Okay, then I will, sorry, I will get back. So share. And yeah, I knew what was wrong. I have to. Okay. Can you see it now?
Not yet, no.
Okay, then the last thing, the PowerPoint.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, super. Now I'm going to just go to the right place for you.
Yes.
Voila.
Perfect. So when you want to come to the museum with your class, there are several options, and Lene and I are both guiding groups in this museum, but you can also do this self-guided visits with the activity sheets that Lene told about in a second ago. And this learning material is available in the 4 languages. So the 3 languages of Belgium and English, but you should know that the tablets available in the museum are also in like the 24 languages. They're also very interactive with lots of little videos or documentation about these specific topics. It's important to tell you also that the museum guided tours with guides are free of charge as well. And mostly they are 90 minutes, which is always too short, of course, but still 90 minutes. And you just need to book in advance, like if it's possible to do it 4 weeks in advance, then we're sure to give you the place and the guides you need. I hope, Aline, if it's possible to put
I just put it in
the link
chat.
on where you can make your reservation. It's an easy way to do it, and then you have the choice when you make your reservation. You've got the choice between the self-guided tour or guided tour. Then you choose the language as well, and everything should be okay. Maybe we could go to the next slide, and where we will be talking about events, because there are lots of things to do in the House of European History, mostly to provide deeper insights in the narratives. There's lots of topics to talk about, and as I told you, 90 minutes is sometimes a little short. Mostly specific topics are highlighted in these events where you can go deeper in comprehension. There's thematic tours. There's also debating activities, and yeah, you can also follow us on the website to see what's coming up. Okay. Yes, Then about the film screen, that's also interesting to point out, because we have this this place where we can present movies, and it's always an historical movie or a movie that has a thematic link with our collection. And since we're covering like the 19th century up till now, there's lots of interesting movies shown in the House of European History, linked with sometimes a guided tour or sometimes a debate as well. And then if you are not able to participate with these events, you can always have a look later on, as this webinar of today is also recorded. We do record also the meetings and the interesting speakers, so as you can watch them later on at your time on the YouTube channel. Okay. Next to this permanent exhibition, we also have these temporary exhibitions. And today you see this picture with a Venus covered by waste, because the topic of the temporary exhibition this year is waste and the history of waste. It's a really interesting exhibition, which is made also with material that is reused, and so it's really nice to see these reflections, and it's a topic that the youth really had put on the agenda, right? So it's nice to give a kind of an answer to them. You'll find more information as well on the website. And the former exhibitions we did were about fake news, so fake or real, or were about posters and the impact when walls talk, or about restless youth. So the topics are really close to the topics that my kids in my school were talking about. So I like to see this this connection between what the youth is worried about and what we can give them as an offer of historical insight. So that's about the exhibitions, the temporary exhibitions, and finally we've got also this virtual tour, and that's really interesting thing to have a closer look to, because it's not always easy to go to come to Brussels. Maybe it's not possible to come with your group, so that's why the entire museum has been filmed inside, and there's lots of little videos as well that the curators from different countries all over Europe are explaining their collections and their choices. So it's really interesting as a tool you can use in your classroom. You can choose your topics, and like it is really as if you were walking through the museum. It's new since this year, so it's nice to have your feedback about it as well. And how you might want to use it in your classroom. Okay, and there is also a new topic which is coming. It's the digital learning toolbox, and we're still working on it. And it will be available next year in the 24 official languages. And it's really created to be an answer to the questions of today's teachers. So you can also have more information about it when you write your email in the newsletter, for instance, or you want to have a look at their website. We will definitely be talking about it. If you want to know more about it, just scan the QR code, and we will keep in touch with you. So this is a very brief overview. We could talk like far longer, of course, but I hope that it's you have an idea of what the House of European History can mean for teachers, and what is still in the running, or what will be shown in the next year. And if there's any question, we're really happy to read them in the chat, and we can answer them as best as we can. But in any case, thank you for listening, and we're also quite curious to know to learn more about your second half of the webinar. So if it's okay, we'll stay and and learn more about you guys.
And of course, you're always welcome in the museum, where Rosewinde, myself, and many other enthusiast colleagues can guide you around, of course.
Okay, let's see if there's anything in the chat. Can you type the URL of the virtual tour? That's done, right? Okay.
I still need to put the virtual tour.
Yeah, okay.
I will go and get
Can you do
it.
Yeah.
I get to do it. I'll stop sharing. It's already done.
Yeah?
Super.
Okay.
Bye.
If you can put the virtual tour, we still have 2 minutes. And normally this workshop we give to teachers is like 90 minutes, where we also try to share and try to ask input from the teachers. So since we still have 2 minutes, I would be happy to read if there's any topic you want to see in this museum, or any topic in European history you really want to tackle. That also gives us some more information about your needs to talk about specific topics in European history. So, Ramona, you want to know, can we use the tour for activities? You can use the tour in your classroom, yeah, sure, and you can really create a learning activity around it. When you open the virtual tour, you've got the topics of the museum. So you can choose whether you want to talk about First World War, whether you want to talk about European reunification. You can really choose the topics you want to talk about. Maybe give an example. It would be interesting if you choose a topic. I hope I answered the question. Since you really can walk anywhere in the whole museum with your guided your virtual tour, so it's really the 19th and 20th century up to now.
Just I'll jump in for another question on my end. So I wonder how frequently it is updated, or how fixed the content of the virtual tour is, because you have temporary exhibitions. And I'm asking this on purpose because I know some of for example, the House of European History had some exhibitions in the past related to cinema or films or other things that is relate more close to our project top. I mean, of course, other things in the more permanent, let's say, exhibitions of the museum is also related, particularly because the movies in the EFF are there for a reason. They're curated, they're selected on purpose, and they are historic. They have some historical or cultural significance about Europe. So on that basis, it's already quite closely related to everything in House of European History. But then there are some, as I said, there are some exhibitions that are more specifically related to films and films and cinema, but they're usually temporary. And I wonder if they're also something that virtual tour includes.
Yes, maybe I can tell you something about this, because yes, we are a permanent exhibition, and it was created in 2014 by a certain group of people, but we're also a very specific museum, because when we started, as it was a part of the European Parliament, there was there was budget, but they couldn't use it because you needed tenders to buy it in big administrations. This is why the curators came with the idea, let's go to museums all over Europe and try to lend objects. And we're a museum where about 80% of the objects are loans, which makes that in our narrative, the idea is clear, but the objects we use, they have to change anyway. So, and it makes it also quite flexible. To change the narrative too, because if you use object A or B in the same lights, well, you can change a bit your narrative. For instance, in the 23rd of August, which is the commemoration day for all victims of authoritarian and totalitarian regimes, we did a special focus on victims of authoritarian and totalitarian regimes. And for this, we had Sandra Schulberg, who is an American film producer and restorer, and her father, in fact, was sent to Europe to create the films for the prosecution for the Nuremberg trials, and he also created a documentary on that Nuremberg, its lessons for today. And because of this, we got the film. So we screened it. We had the discussions we did a tour before the film, and then we had the discussions later. And the screen, the canopy, or how do you call it? No, the film tin is now also on display in the museum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is, for instance, very it was only in August, and that will change in some time again. So it's really flexible what we show.
There are these advantages about changing topics as well, because the news is always changing as well. So there's new topics coming, but indeed the temporary exhibitions are not included in the virtual tour. They have, although they have these booklets which come out with a detailed description on which how you can interpret these or that topics, or which films were shown. So you can also use these catalogs of the temporary exhibitions to make your lessons. But the virtual tour is really focused on the permanent exhibition, and there you can click on a lot of videos you can watch in there. So I hope these two answers are helping you a little bit.
Yeah, indeed, they're very helpful,
Okay.
and I'm sure it's better to make that connection so people who are more specifically interested in a certain topic can know where to look, and while someone who is more flexible on what they want to see can just go and start from the virtual tour, which is already a very good place to get started, let's say.
Yeah,
that's great. I wonder if there are any other questions for our colleagues today. Please let us know in the chat. And if not, I will thank you both for this very interesting presentation. It's super good to know. I know that some of us are already in Belgium or Brussels even, and we have an easier access to the museum, but some of us are not that lucky, but so it's good to know that there is a virtual tour available. Even if you're not able to come to Brussels, you can still take a look at the exhibitions of the museum.
At our history.
Yes, indeed. And I see some.
Thank you for having us then.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, there you go. We have already some plans to come visit.
Yeah,
brilliant.
I see Cleopatra at the land.
Brilliant.
Well, see you then.
All right. Thank you very much, both of you, Lane and Rosavinde. It was a pleasure to have you here and listen to you. And I'll just switch to my other colleagues in the call today to give their part of the presentation and the webinar. And yeah, so everyone, we will have now 3 of our focus group teachers, Andreas, Emma, and Emilia, and they will be talking about the pedagogical kit related to the movie El Camino, which is now available in our or will be made soon on the EFF website. And please welcome them, and without further ado, I'll just pass the virtual floor to my colleagues for their presentation. Thank you all.
Hello, Erai, will you share it, please, the presentation?
Yes, I will. I'm doing it right now. Sorry.
Hello from us. Welcome. And as Erai has already told you, we will now present an educational kit we have prepared for one of the films that are included in the platform European Film Factory. I hope that most of you are already familiar with the platform. And I think that Emma is going to start.
Thank you so much, Andreas. Thank you, Erai. Thank you to everybody who is looking us. The first slide is just very short general info on this movie that we are reflecting on. The educational kit will be available soon, as Erai just said. The title is The Path in English, El Camino in Spanish, because it's the country when I was raised is Spain. It was raised in 1964. And the film genre is a drama. The themes are very wide range of themes that can be really easy adapted in the classroom, as you will see later in the following slides. The duration of the movie is not so long. It's 91 minutes. So it's okay to be seen during the normal lesson. The language is Spanish, as I told, but of course you can have the transcriptions when you use the European Film Factory platform. You can have the transcription in your own language, or if your students study Spanish, it's a very good chance to practice their Spanish. We can pass to the other slide. Thank you. Just a very short synopsis about this film. The film comes from a Miguel Delbes novel. The name of the novel is El Camino, like the film. I'm not seeing the other slide. Maybe it's my problem, or okay, now I see. Thank you so much. The novel talks about, and also the film talks about a very young child. He's 11 years old. The name is Daniel. And the protagonist, it's about the last days of the protagonist in this Spanish countryside village, because he's preparing to leave the village to study in the city. And the time when the novel was set is after the war, the Second World War, but in the reality, the movie is set in 60s. It's a coming of age story for sure, because in this movie Daniel thinks about the important events of his childhood, and so it's a good way for students to be empathic with this movie and to feel like the protagonist. And the fact that there is also a novel is very useful to work on the novel as well, not just on the film. We can pass to the other slide. Thank you. The most important particular of this movie is that the director is a woman. Is a woman. The name is Ana Maria Mariscal. She is also an actress, a Spanish actress, and she was also a producer and a screenplay writer. So she had lots of roles during her life. Ana Mariscal, during her life, was one of a pioneer, a sort of pioneer, one of the very few female directors in Spain during the Franco's dictatorship. And when she was in 1941, before this film, before El Camino, she also had a character role in the film Raza. That was a very patriotic film that shaped her career. In fact, after the movie, she was always identified as a sort of Francisco Franco muse. And this was a sort of shadow on her career. And this shadow followed her until the death in March 1995. It was a sort of ideological prejudice on this pioneer director from Spain. But in 2021, Cannes Festival, the French Cannes Festival, has restored this copy of El Camino. And there was a sort of a rediscovery of Hannah Mariscal works and films, because she directed 10 films. So it was a sort of record in such a conservative era like the dictatorship, Franco dictatorship age. When El Camino was shot, the project was very difficult to be finished because there were no financial aids. She was helped by the family. She was very independent, very brave woman, and the film had no distribution. It was not shot in the cinemas, just one presentation in the place where it was located, in Candaleda, in the province of Avilia, but was totally ignored by the critics, by the public, no distribution at all. It was such a failure at the time. But now, after this restoration, and after, I hope, our work on the educational kit in European Film Factory platform, I hope that many people could enjoy this visually wonderful film with a very good cast. Thank you so much. I leave the floor to Andreas.
So, since today we are talking about history and we saw the presentation about the House of European History, actually there is a link between the movie and the museum, let's say, because it is a coming-of-age story. It has to do with a young boy. It is set in the post-war Spain. And actually, we have a very nice depiction of the enclosed world, the enclosed rural world of Spain after the war and during Franco's dictatorship, and the conservative reality that people were going through. We can see topics like migration and how thousands of Spaniards migrated either from small villages to the big cities of the time, or even to the Americas. We have a character in the movie whose nickname is Indiano, El Indiano, which was a nickname given to all the Spanish people who moved to the Americas to find a better future and then returned back to Spain having made a fortune. We can also see the influential presence of the Catholic Church. One of the main characters of the film is the priest, who has a role who plays the role of a leader in the village and a spiritual guide of people, and even responsible for cultural events at the village. So we can see the political and economic development of the Spanish bourgeoisie of the time and how Spain is transformed, and especially the tension between people who are willing to see new things, to experience new horizons, and an institution and leaders and powers that are repressive, and they are not very willing to accept all the changes. To summarize the historical context, it is a perfect example of depicting the economic development and modernization advocated by the Franco regime. Moving on to a very interesting aspect, since we are talking about films and cinema. Let's go to the next slide. There is a very important topic in the film, which is movie watching. It's self-referential, let's say, because we have movies in the movies, projection of movies in this very conservative village of the 1950s, early 60s. These are the first film screenings organized by the priest, Don Jose, for the community of the village. And this is the first encounter for most of the villagers with cinema, which was true for many people of the 50s, 40s, and 50s and 60s, as the first movie screenings were taking place in small villages and small places all around Europe. Their first encounter with cinema was a very important experience. And the selection of the films that are projected is very interesting because they are almost all of them, Spanish religious films approved by the Catholic Church. And here we have a very important topic, the topic of censorship, and how art is trying to bring new experiences to people, but these encounters the obstacles that pose church, political leadership, etc., etc. And a very interesting fact that we have a sneak glimpse of the poster of a film that is not projected in the village, of course, but we have a sneak preview of the poster of a film by Elia Kazan, Splendor in the Grass. And I think that it is a very interesting point here that the director makes, because this film actually has to do with youth sexuality and oppressive communities. And this is a theme, a combination of themes that goes through the whole of El Camino. And moving on to the next slide, all these important things, the coming of age story of the young protagonist and the historical context of the era. I don't see the next slide. Can we move to it, please? Are directed in a very expressive way. First of all, we have the screenplay, which is based, as Emma already told, on a homonymous novel by Miguel Delibes, and it is centered around the coming of age of the main character, Daniel. But around Daniel, we have a chorus, like the chorus of the ancient tragedies, of various characters, men and women, representing different aspects of the society of the era. Hardworking fathers, caring mothers, pious spinsters, disgraced women, immigrants, all of which make a tapestry of the society of the time. And the way the movie is directed, it is structured on juxtaposed concepts. We have the contrast between village and city, the contrast between childhood and adulthood, the contrast between educated people and uneducated ones, rich people and poor ones, and the tension between these opposite poles of the contrasts. And we can find a lot of symbols throughout the movie, especially the birds, which we can see them caged, we can see them flying in the open air, we can see them dead, killed. And these are all symbols of the coming of age and the experiences that a young boy of the time experienced in a village of the Spanish village of the time. Actually, the cinematography and the settings of the movie enhance this contrast between these juxtaposed poles. We have a black and white photography that is used to showcase the sad and happy feelings that all people experience. We have bright and dark tones of the costumes, depending on the character, depending on the feelings and the emotions that are taking place at the time. And we have the contrast between an open-air countryside, which is very sunny, and the suffocating moral control of Franco's conservative society. That's all about the expressive means. I will give the floor to Emilia to guide you through some of the activities that we have planned for the film.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. I'm going to present you some activities that you can do in your classroom. In the pedagogical kit, you can find actually 4. I have selected the first 2 activities to present to you. The first activity is based as a topic on the villagers because they represent an important element in the film. If you decide to watch the film in the class, then the duration of the first activity can be up to 180 minutes. You can include the activity if you have as a school subject social studies or literature. The level of difficulty for this activity is an intermediate one. You can work with high school students, but also it works with lower secondary students. For the first activity, students can work individually, but also you can arrange them to work in groups. The first step is to have a discussion with your students about their experience regarding the life village or small towns. After some questions, students can create a list of different characters that they found in the movie, and they can work individually. Later on, they share their list in pairs and then in plenary. Then they decide on which of these characters are the most important ones in terms of representing a village society. This was the first step. The second step, for the second step, we have here a picture of the women from the village. These women have an important role in the community because they take part of the community to also censorship the films selected to be screened in the village. Okay, so the first activity on this step is for characters to be divided to students who work in groups. Each group then creates an extract from the movie showcasing the role of the character assigned in the extract given to them. Then they can add some annotations, they can explain, and also they can add characters' features depicted in the chosen scene. As an important tool, teachers and students can use European Film Factory platform because there they can find excerpts. Also, they have some models, some examples, and also some mind maps. Okay, the third step of this activity, students share the extracts to the class and incorporate them in a mind map that shows the mosaic of the village society depicted in the film. As an assessment, the teacher can ask the students to write a paragraph commenting on one of the characters of the film, being a positive or a negative character. They also have to include some details about the changement of their behavior throughout the film. And of course, they can use adjectives to describe that character. About the learning area, students will develop and explore during this activity the critical dimension of the film. For example, the role and function of different characters in a plot, and also the cultural dimension. The cultural dimension refers to reflecting on the special characteristics of rural societies that shapes their individuals. Okay, the next slide presents the activity number 2, that is called "We All Have Our Paths Laid Out for Our Life." This activity is for students aged between 15 and up to 18, and it has a level of difficulty as an intermediate one. We work with students individually, but also in groups. For example, the discussions can be done in groups of 3 or 4, and later on in plenary. And then the other reflection part with the whole class can be done with the whole class. This activity is good for subjects as languages, literature, social and philosophical studies. And it can take up to 60 or 90 minutes. The first step, we ask students, or we watch together the excerpt, and I have included the seconds and the minutes. You can watch it later on the platform if you want. This excerpt shows Don Jose's sermon, and then they discuss in groups about the message of the sermon. Also, with the help of the teacher, they highlight the theoretical techniques used, the advice given by Don Jose and his vision, and the concept of following our path, aligning our steps with the Lord's path. Also, the personal experience considering the sermon's message. We also use the same platform, European Film Factory, and then the second step is to ask students to express their opinions in groups and then in the plenary. The next slide, please. And in plenary or in groups, they can share their opinions, their perspectives, their points of view. Of course, we encourage all the members of the group to share their experience, their opinions, expressing their perspectives. If needed, teacher can help students asking some questions regarding the impact of the sermon in the community, in their personal life, if the advice given by Don Jose applies to different aspects of their life, not just the religious one, or other questions. For example, what impact do you think the sermon might have on the community? Can you think of events narrated in the film or any real life situations where following a specific path has led to a positive or negative outcome? Questions like this. Later on, students are encouraged to support their opinions with evidence from the film or from their own experience, and usually they like discussing and showing their points of view. At the end of this step, together with students, teacher and students, will summarize the key points. You can see here a picture of Don Jose's sermons. And at the end, as an assessment activity, we can ask students to write some reflections. That means students can write a reflection paper on the film El Camino, the path, focusing on the sermon scene. For example, they can add personal thoughts, some reaction or insight gained from the activity. They are encouraged to explore how Don Jose's message relates to their own beliefs, values, experiences, and to explore all the meanings of the path from the point of view of the metaphor. That was all, and I hope these activities will inspire you and will motivate you to bring this film to your classroom. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, and thanks to our three teachers on the call, Andreas, Emilia, and Emma, for this very detailed explanation of the kit. I'm sure the colleagues, the fellow teachers on the call would find this very informative, and thanks also for establishing the relationship with this particular movie and the kit and the first part of our presentations this morning, the House of European History. I wonder if there are some questions from the people in the audience about the kit. Conscious of time, of course, we are just a little bit over the 1 hour mark. So if there are any questions, please go ahead and ask. And if not, you can always reach us to myself, as you already have my email. And if not, you can always find us from the EFF website for further follow-up. I guess there are not any questions. I guess it means that you've done a brilliant job in explaining everything so perfectly. No questions are needed anymore. Thank you all once again, and I'll just close on the note that we will have several other webinars coming up, mostly almost every week for the next 3 months. So please keep an eye on the European Film Factory portal, as well as our newsletters and other sources of information related to our projects, such as the social media. They will be announcing these in the coming weeks and months. Thank you all for joining, and have a great evening. Yes, and Emmanuel, thank you for reminding. There's also a masterclass on November 14th, so that is brilliant. If you are interested in following up on El Camino, that would be a great time to do so. Thank you. Have a good evening.